At first, my mother, I didn't think of myself as a songwriter, but I was making melodies up to songs I found in books. My mother gave me Carl Sandburg's American Song Bag, and then there was the Lomax collection of best folk songs in North America. And I'll go through these books and just pick out something that appealed to me. And for some reason, in the song bag, there was some music notation, and I had taken some piano lessons as a kid, so I would have been able to pick out the melody, but for some reason I wasn't inclined to do that. And I just started making these melodies up. In the case of One Morning in May, it was based on a banjo tune that Bill Keith was learning, but it was a bluegrass tempo, and I made it into a waltz, just with the chord changes from the bluegrass.
One morning in May, I spied a fair couple making their way, and one was a maiden so bright and so fair, the other was a soldier and a brave volunteer. Good morning, good morning, good morning to thee. Oh, where are you going, my pretty lady? Oh, I'm going to the banks of the sea to see the waters gliding, hear the nightingales sing.
So I did a bunch of that. There are several songs that I've recorded over the years that basically I had made the melodies up to, but I still didn't think of myself as a songwriter. But in my 30s, I kind of threw over the traces, and I split up with my wife, and I stopped working my job at the Bearsville studio, and I just blew it off. And I started writing songs about, you write about your troubles or and I had listened to a lot of country music. Country music is kind of accessible to me. And there's a stream of country music songs which combine this laugh to keep from crying kind of approach to things. When things are looking really bad, you just got to laugh about it, and it makes it better. So I wrote these lyrics that had that element to them. And and one of those songs was the song that enabled me to get to Nashville. It was called Only the Best. I wrote it up in Magog in Canada. I had a girlfriend who was living up there or spending some time up there, and I had a motor home at the time, and she had given me the news that we were through, and I was in that motor home, and it was a mess, and I woke up, and I always had a yellow legal pad and a pen or a pencil. Usually pencil's better to write in because you can erase. And then I wrote this song. She was only the best. No need to sit here and cry. Why don't you give your heart a rest? Simple stuff. And it came out as a waltz, and about 2 years later, I was in a situation where somebody offered to help me record some of my songs. And I was back in Massachusetts after working in New York and in Woodstock. And I had gathered some musicians together that I was playing with, and we went into a studio and recorded several songs, and that was one of them. And I was happy with the results. And I'd spent a little time in Nashville in '73 and '74, a few months, and I got to know some people. So I decided I'd take these tapes, go down there and play them for some people and see what reaction I would get. And one of them was my friend John Lomax, who's one of the Lomax family. And he was working for this man, Jack Clement, and who I knew all about. Jack had had a long career, starting at Sun Records, produced Whole Lot of Shakin' Going On, wrote Ballad of a Teenage Queen for Johnny Cash, produced all of Charlie Pride's records. He was an amazing man. And his nickname was Cowboy. And Lomax says to me, "Oh, I think Cowboy would like this song." And I said, "Where is he?" And he said, "He's in the next room." And there you go. There I was, and this man came in who I'd followed his career forever. And he loved the song, started waltzing around the room with a glass of water on his head, not spilling a drop, and calling people up to come over and hear this song. And that just opened the door for me. So that gave me a lot of confidence, but I still never pursued a career as a songwriter.
One of the reasons that I sort of grew into what I did is because recording was my favorite thing to do. But you would have a guitar idea, and it wouldn't necessarily have the impact or the energy without the drums, even though you were imagining it in your head. So that led me to pursue drums, and then finding out that bass is what actually glues the rhythm to the chords, and then understanding that the atmospheres that can be created around that with a keyboard create, further soundscapes, making the picture larger. And then with every instrument, you play those instruments differently. So there's every time there's a large amount of sort of, you start with an idea, and then as you're crafting it, it's almost like it is writing itself. It's almost like I become the instrument of the overall music.
I will do occasional poetry. I love to do haiku. I definitely have a creative mind. I would call myself sort of a creative entrepreneur. But I haven't composed a song yet. So, although boy, do I love experimenting with harmonies, and sometimes I will riff. And sometimes maybe people do this when they're getting ready for their day. But sometimes I will make harmonies. Dad and I joke about the fact that I was in college and he came to pick me up at some point. And on the drive there, I think it was just him in the truck, and he made up a piece of music because the radio had died, and so all you could hear was the and then the wipers would go shik, 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 and the blinkers would go clink, 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 and he did a whole kind of melodic piece, based on that. I will find myself, again, maybe daughter of a songwriter, I will find myself doing that with the noises in the house. I will integrate them into some kind of syncopated rhythm in my head, which I always thought was kind of normal, but I'm not sure that that's totally normal. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, it means there's always that you're never quite silent in your head.
It depends on what I'm writing for. Often I write because there's a need for a certain song. So when I was the director of music at the church, it was going to be a springtime floral service, and we needed a song that included flowers, and so I would write a piece to fit into that kind of thing. So I often write for that kind of purpose. But I also write because I also will write when I have something that needs to be said. And sometimes those songs work really well, and sometimes they really don't. It depends a little bit on how, I don't know what it depends on, but, so I have so that particular song, I had written as a poem first, and then decided I wanted to set it to music. That is more often the way around that I write. I more often start with words. But when I write keyboard pieces, obviously, I don't have any words. I more often start with words. Although often I will start with one set of words, like maybe I've got the second verse and a chorus, but I don't have the first verse or the last verse or something like that, you know, so it doesn't, I don't have the words always finished when I start.
I am pretty good with words, and I enjoy it when I do it, but I didn't ever say, okay, this is what I'm going to do all the time. And that's what you really need to do, is if you're going to be a professional. If you're going to be a professional songwriter, you need to get up every day and write some songs, and have to want to write songs. You have to just have that drive. And I eventually went into the publishing business and worked with songwriters. And I know how much of a commitment it is, and how much talent is involved, and how much luck is involved. It's not easy, but you have to really want to do it. I didn't have that drive, but I did continue to write on occasion, and sometimes where I would go into a room with somebody else with a yellow pad between us, and we'd start to talk. One of my friends, Herb McCullough, who I'd known since I came to Nashville, he insisted. He really dragged me into this room. We had a writer's room in our publishing company where you would go to write. I said, oh, I'm very busy, Herb, I can't do this. But he insisted, so I went in there. And we started talking. At the time I was spending a good deal of time in Ireland. And he just said, well, what's the story in Northern Ireland between the Protestants and the Catholics? Why is this, this seems like, shouldn't this be over by now? And I said, well, it's the same thing, Herb. People just can't put themselves in someone else's shoes and see things from their point of view. Point of view. That was a song. We made a song out of it. And I recorded it with an Irish artist named Sean King, and there was a line in there, if your future's in the past, then there's no need to ask which road you're on or where you're going. But is that the best that you can do when your child looks up at you with hopeful eyes? You know, as a chorus, we're all trying to make a living, trying to find a way to be true. It wouldn't be so tough if we were willing to open up and share our point of view. Or change our point of view, sorry. I mean, it's that simple stuff, but I like that kind of stuff. And we put that song out in Ireland just at the time of the Good Friday peace agreement was coming to a head in the north of Ireland. And it got played on the radio, and a lot of people commented on it, and it helped, you know.
One morning in May, I spied a fair couple making their way, and one was a maiden so bright and so fair, the other was a soldier and a brave volunteer.